You're listening to Parasearch UK Radio. News, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch UK Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
It's Monday evening, and you're listening to Joe and Gemma on the Supernaturelle Show.
Good evening and welcome to this week's Supernatural Self? No, I'll try that again. It's actually called the Supernaturelle Show with myself, Gemma, and the beautiful Jolene. Hi, Jo.
Oh, I'm not feeling very beautiful tonight, but thanks, Hern. How are you?
Oh, you're always beautiful, woman. Give over.
Oh, look at you anyway. Bloody out and about on Saturday.
What do you mean?
And now we've got the Supernaturelle Show.
Hi guys, good evening. Sorry about that. I'm not entirely sure what's occurring tonight, but welcome to the show. How is everybody? How are you all doing? It's been a whole week.
Yeah.
It's been a whole week since we spoke to everybody. So, well, actually, Jo, it's been longer since I spoke to you.
I know. Why? Do you know what? Yes. I had my lovely partner back from sea. So last week was a meal that kind of went a little bit hayward. So, but anyway, it's nice to have him back. But yeah, it's been quite a while actually. I feel like I've done loads and loads of stuff, but not done much, if you understand what I mean.
Oh yes, I know that feeling extremely well. I think I seem to be living my life around that just lately.
Oh, bless you. So how are you feeling after the clock's gone forward, girls?
Oh, do you know, I was going to waffle about that because I think it deserves a waffle. A waffle? What is wrong with me again? Honestly, I think I just need to go to bed. Wake up tomorrow. No, the clock's changing has completely thrown my sleeping schedule like you would never believe. Such an inconvenience.
See, I'm actually all right, but I think it just kind of, Friday night investigating, then going out last night, and I just kind of feel like, I just need a decent night's sleep, I think.
So yours isn't so much the clocks, more your social life.
Yeah, I think
that's what we're going with.
Well, I think my social life at the minute has been quite because obviously Mark's home, isn't he? So it's been lovely having him here, and then obviously Stan as well, and the kids, and the kids have been with their dad this weekend, so it's been lovely to be in North Wales this weekend, and down at Drakelow tunnels as well on Friday night. That was absolutely amazing. Absolutely love that place. I've never been before, but we're going to discuss that anyway, aren't we?
Yeah. So Pen, how have you how have you found the change in the clocks?
Crap.
Is that what you're going with? Is that as much detail as we're going to get? It was crap.
Yep. I'm going to be the worst guest possible tonight. You're going to get like monosyllabic answers to everything.
That's absolutely fine by me. Fine by me. In case nobody's noticed, I can waffle for England anyway, so.
No, I do not like the clocks changing. It takes me a good week to get used to it, if not longer. And then I've got to deal with my youngest son doesn't cope with it very well either. So his behaviour goes off the charts. So no, I'm not a big fan of it, really.
No. It's very inconvenient, and I'm that tired because of lack of sleeping. I even messed up on my Facebook post. I actually put that the clocks went back. I wish they'd have gone back. I'd have had an extra hour instead of losing one then, right?
And then you tried to make out that you hadn't done that because nobody would notice.
Naturally, but then you had to grass me up, Pen.
I wasn't
Penny
the one that
pops
pointed
up
it out.
with, well, actually, I see that. Yeah, of course you did.
But I didn't say anything at the time. I just chortled and thought, oh, it's Gemma.
Yeah, Gemma's not slept very much. Oh, honestly, it's so bad, so bad.
Oh,
So, Pen,
have you seen the chat room? We've got both
I've
bosses.
literally just flicked onto it. I know, right? There's never any more nerve-wracking moment, is there, than when both of your bosses jump in the chat room.
I know. And we've got somebody from Canada as well, who is now on Kerry's hit list.
Oh, Wes, you're
Yes.
on the hit list.
We got the Spooky Sisters in as well.
Yeah, we're doing well in this chat room tonight. Good evening,
bad,
everyone.
is it?
Thanks for joining us. So, Pen, what have you been up to?
Well, what have I been up to? Well, I went to see Dan Snow last week with my husband. That was my husband's birthday present. Ha ha ha. But this weekend, not a lot really. Not a lot. Just sort of reading and the normal kind of stuff. I promised I won't do any investigations in April because I did so many in March. So I'm booking them in for May now. And I've got 2 weekends on the trot now that I'm doing them, which I've had to smile sweetly at the husband and say he can go fishing over the summer a few times to make up for it.
Oh dear, it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Squeezing all this time in.
Yeah. But then again, he knows one of them is for research for the new book, the one I'm writing at the moment, so he's kind of amenable to it.
So, that's a part of the reason why you're here tonight, innit, Pen? You know, you have just written a book. It is out there for the public to buy. Feel free to pop on over to Amazon to have a look at this book that Penny's written. But because Penny actually mentions Drakelow in this book, and it's one of your favourite locations as well, innit, Pen?
Oh, definitely. Top 5.
Top 5. I love Drakelow, without a doubt. And I've been so many times that I cannot count how many times I've been to Drakelow, but this was Joe's very first ever time at Drakelow.
I can't believe that, Joe. I can't believe you've never been before.
Do you know what? I think it was kind of one of those venues that I'd always had on my hit list, and we kind of looked into booking the venue about 18 months ago, but for some reason, I think the people up in Yorkshire don't really like venturing down south an awful lot, so the ticket sales weren't fantastic. So I've just been waiting until there was an opportunity to go, and Friday kind of presented itself, and I was like, yep, definitely want to go. So yeah, ended up going on Friday, but also because I knew I was going, I kind of didn't read that chapter in your book because I didn't want, obviously, like anything, I don't do any research on the venues that we go to. I'd rather not have that power of suggestion before you get there. And it was quite strange, actually, because on the Thursday night, I woke up at 3:33 in the morning, which was strange anyway. And I looked, and I could only describe what I saw was a woman in a tabard, which was like a catering uniform. It was really strange. And I woke Mark up at the same time, and I was like, oh God, there's somebody in, and I'm like, oh no, I shouldn't really woke him up because I sound like a right freak when I say there's somebody in the room. But
because he's laid there and he's like, I should hope so, love. You're there, I'm here. Can I go back to sleep now?
Yeah, but
Ménage à trois.
Yeah, but I was like, it was a bit strange because she did say to me, I'm waiting for you, and I was like, I don't know who you are. And she got like this, like permed hair and everything. Now the only thing I could describe her was looking a bit like a Kevin, I can't even say that word. I did it on Friday as well, like a Kevin Keegan sort of perm, but it was like gingery coloured, and I couldn't really get much else from how she looked, and it was just really strange. And obviously I wrote some names down that popped up as we was walking round, and the place is just absolutely buzzing with activity. Honestly, I can't wait to go back. It was frightening. It's probably, when people have said to me before now, what's your most frightening experience? That that has to be now top of my frightening list, because what happened was just unbelievable.
Okay, so why don't you tell us what did happen?
Right, we were doing the walk round, so I went with obviously Liqueur Paranormal, Corinne and Alex, Lee Bullock, went with Paul LePew, Vicky, MJ Dixon. There was quite a lot of us. Carl Hutchinson was there as well, it was great to see him.
MJ and Corinne are in the chat room at the moment.
Yeah. So it was really strange, and we were doing the walk round, and for some reason, just out of the corner of my eye, I saw somebody stood in a doorway, and basically he like ran off, and I was like, where's he gone? So Gary and myself I just stood there, and I said, did you see him? And he was like, yeah. And I said, I need to go and follow him. So we all as a group ended up walking down into, I can't remember where it was, because it's such a rabbit warren of tunnels, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
But we ended up in this little room, and there was a little doorway cut out of this wall. So we ended up going through there, and there was a couple of tables in this end of this tunnel, and it was like I was stood there. There was Gary stood at the side of me. There was Vicky as well, and Karen Ambler as well. She was there. No, Karen and Eddie were there. Frey. And MJ and everybody were a bit further down, and it was just really weird. I felt really drunk. It was like, the only way I could describe it, I've never ever done transmediumship at all, but it was just like all of a sudden there was just somebody using all of my energy, literally zapping every single bit out of me, and I couldn't move, and I couldn't stand up properly, and it was like, what the hell? And I remember just saying, I don't feel very well. And literally with that, it was like Gary said to me, my face had changed, and he said, you need to push them back. And I was like, I don't know what the hell's happening here. But yeah, and what was really strange is, because obviously MJ had walked a little bit further down, so she wasn't aware of what had happened. Mm-hmm. And I got back to the base room after we'd done the walk round, because we split into a couple of teams, and got to the base room, and she'd actually said to me that she'd had a frightening experience in one of the tunnels, and I just said to her, I said, what was the experience? And she literally reiterated everything that had just happened to me, but she hadn't seen that, if you understand what I mean. Mm-hmm. So that then just absolutely corroborated everything. And Eddie as well, bless him, he started to feel a little bit uneasy as well in one of the tunnels. And he said, I just feel like somebody's just literally zapped everything. But I think the most scariest bit of that is that I wasn't expecting it. It was, somebody just coming in, literally wanting to use my body as their like vessel sort of thing. It was frightening. But what I did do is I'd actually said inside that I wanted to be able to try that, and I wanted to explore other avenues of mediumship. And obviously I'm quite good friends with Gary, and Gary's been helping me. But what I didn't expect was for somebody to just go in and do it without obviously asking me, and me not allowing them to come through. But later on in the evening, I was sat in the base room, and we'd been getting some EVPs in there, in the base room, some really, really good ones. And literally there was three girls. We were left in there on our own. There was myself, there was Claire, and there was MJ in there. And what we actually witnessed then was unbelievable. It was very intense in there. There was nobody else in the room. There was just us three, and we had 2 video cameras rolling at the same time. We'd got 2 different voice recorders recording at the same time as well. And literally out of nowhere, it's just unbelievable. It was so strange. I said that there was a man in the room with us, and literally we'd just been sat there, and I was looking at the table, and I remember it now, looking at the table, and it was pitch black. We couldn't see anything. And then literally, I just went, like, literally, I heard, like, a chair move, and MJ got up and went, "You don't get to do that." But before she'd said that, I actually sat there and I went, "He's back." Literally in a split second, and you watch all three of us look in the same direction at the same time at whatever this thing was, and this thing literally grabbed hold of MJ's hair, and it was like you actually see it's captured on a video. And then, you know, she kind of went a bit mad, and she said, "You don't get to do that to women, and you don't prey on lone women," and things like that. And the voice that we captured, basically, I think MJ mentioned something about us being weak, and that we weren't weak. And you can actually hear on the voice recorder a snigger and a male mocking us, saying, "Yes, you are." And that was just unbelievable. But I had to leave by about 2:00. I was absolutely done in. But after all this had happened, everybody came back to the base room, and this guy wasn't leaving. He wasn't leaving anything. And literally, I'd said, you can use me, but when I say stop, it's time to stop. And literally, he was trying to speak. Apparently, my eyes glazed over, and I just didn't look like myself at all. And I just, it was, the only way I can describe it is it was an emotional experience. I remember coming round and coming out of it and being quite upset. But he was showing me things that he'd done to women. Now, I don't know whether this guy had actually worked there or whether this has been either a low-level entity. I don't know, because obviously I've not done any research on it. But what he did show me was, you know, quite harrowing attacks of lone women. And I saw 3 women there. But I also felt like he was never kind of brought to justice over it, which was strange. And it was really weird because I said, you know, when all of this happened, Gary had written some things down regarding bruises and cigarette burns and things like that. And stuff that I saw was quite graphic and upsetting. And it was just like, oh my God, yeah, everything that I've just literally seen that had happened. And it was just strange. It was a weird experience.
It's interesting you mentioned this male entity because, and the fact you haven't read that chapter in the book, there is an entity that some people have mentioned at Drakelow who calls himself the Reverend. He's not a reverend. He just likes to call himself that because it gives him kind of power, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. And when I was there the most recent time, it was unusual because the group had been split off into there was only 2 women and everyone else was men. And he wouldn't communicate. They couldn't get it sounds a weird thing to say. It's not technically right the way I'm going to say it. They couldn't get the Ouija board to work. And I just happened to say, without being on it, do you just want women on the board? And it went straight to yes. So me and this other woman went on it. Now, having experienced Drakelow before, having experienced the draining that you're talking about, and I'm not a psychic medium. I'm a sensitive, but I'm not a psychic medium. But yeah, I was exhausted afterwards. I'd put quite a lot of protection up, but I actually don't feel intimidated by Drakelow. Whether it's I kind of maybe I worked there in a previous life, I don't know. I feel very drawn to it, but he was really affecting the other woman on the board to the point where she looked like she was about to pass out. She was very pale. She was shaking, and I kept getting visions of a very bullish male who did prey on weak women. And the medium who was standing next to us, I turned round to her and I said, there's a word he keeps calling me, because I wasn't giving in to him, I wasn't letting him in, and we both said the word at exactly the same time, and it's a word I never use, and I'm not going to say it because it's the C word. I never use that word.
Not, you'll make me blush. I've read it. I can't be hearing it too.
Yeah, I did put stars in. I didn't write the actual word in the book because I really hate this word. But me and him both said it at exactly the same time. And I said, that word is being screamed at me in my head. Some bloke is yelling at me in my head, this word. And apparently this is quite common for this character known as the Reverend.
Right.
There are also rumours that he didn't work there per se, but when the tunnel started to be shut down, he used it to assault people, women.
Oh my God.
But I haven't found any confirmation of newspaper reports of that. And the time
you see, that's the thing is, you know, when I said I got all these visions of him attacking women and things like that, I also had him laughing. He was laughing about it. He said, I was never caught. And I was like, oh my God. And, you know, like literally I think at one point I remember like how he was trying to use my voice, and I think I frightened quite a lot of the group as well by that point, because I was like literally gagging, you know, like he was not trying to choke me, but he was trying to talk through using my voice.
Yeah.
And I was just about, and I just went, as soon as I saw him, literally, and this what ties in, because when I said to MJ, I said, I've just watched him grab hold of somebody's head and literally force her down on a table. And I said, and I only want to say one thing, but he subjected her to the most horrific rape. It was awful. It was just, you know, and it wasn't, you know, it was sodomy basically. It was horrific. And he was laughing all the time. And that's the one I remember getting home and getting into bed and just laying there for about 3 hours with tears rolling down my face, thinking, oh my God. And, you know, Mark woke up and he was like, are you all right? And I was like, yeah, I've just had the most horrific experience, and I explained to him. But when you're trying to explain stuff that you've been through like that to a skeptic or to somebody who's never had any dealings with the paranormal, you kind of sound like a bit of a freak, don't you? Well, I do actually. I sound like a bit of a freak, but it was just to have MJ actually say that had happened, and now to hear you say that as well, it kind of makes me feel, what's that word I'm looking for? It makes me feel like I've kind of validated quite a bit of stuff that other people have experienced.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I have not found any evidence of girls going missing in that area, because the time frame that this person would have done it in is quite short and is relatively, very recent, really, 70s, 80s. I wasn't able to find any sort of verification of it. However, just because if he abused them there, it doesn't mean that's where he killed them or where he dumped them or whatever.
So when you was doing your research then, Penny, was you actually researching for sexual attacks at the same time, or was it just to see missing persons?
Anything to do with assaults, unexplained deaths, anything like that in the kind of from late 60s to late 80s, really, because that's when it could have feasibly have happened.
Because sexual attacks even back then would have actually made papers, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
If that was happening, that would have been reported on.
Yeah, it wouldn't necessarily maybe have been put as a sexual attack or a rape, but it would have been put as an attack, a physical attack or assault or whatever.
A bit more diplomatic.
Yeah. But they would have still had something reported. Now, I personally couldn't find anything in the newspapers from those eras. So I can't say for definite. I can't put two and two together and say that it definitely could have happened.
Yeah, we can't corroborate it, can we? Because if there's no history to actually back that up, and obviously with it being a bunker as well, they're still bound under the Official Secrets Act. So if anybody would have known about anything in there at that time, it probably has been covered up. You don't know, do you?
In saying that though, Pen, is that still bound? Because obviously you've done a lot of research on Drakelow, Pen, for your book. So is that still a secret or not?
Some of it is. I mean, the report, there were people died and sort of when it was first being built, and sort of a few years after it was built. Those were reported. You can find those reports in the newspapers from the 1940s and 50s. So they didn't sort of shirk on that. You can also find the reports of when different manufacturers went in there, because it didn't really stay. It was actually built as a shadow factory in the early 40s, because Right, here's the history lesson. Basically, what was happening is, obviously, Britain's at war, and they need to build engines and stuff for the bombers and the fighters and all that kind of thing. And they'd put all their factories quite close together. And so you take an area like Coventry, where a lot of them were, and it just took one good hit to Coventry and all the factories are wiped out. So I'm kind of simplifying it a bit, but that's basically what the situation was. So the government decided they had to build these shadow factories, and they wanted them to be where nobody would realise they were. Hence Drakelow started getting built. So Drakelow was originally being built as a shadow factory to produce engines. I think, off the top of my head, I think it was Merlin engines, I might be wrong. But it was to produce aeroplane engines, and that's what originally it was being built for.
Wow.
But by the time it was finished, it was getting too late, and so they turned it into I can never say this word, metallurgy facility testing. I can't speak. Metallurgy.
Is it one of those, if you say it really slowly, it comes out? Metal testing.
There is a posh word, and I can't say it right now.
Let's not even bother with a posh word, eh? We don't need posh words at all.
They were testing metals. And then from then, it went on to be they used it for tanks, building tank engines and stuff. Like a private company was using it. And then from there, that's when they turned it into kind of a Kelvin and Hatch nuclear bunker. That's what it became subsequently. So it's kind of had a lot of... And these things you can find documentation on, that you can get hold of. What you can't find, and this is very similar to places like Kelvin and Hatch, and probably is it Hat Green, the one you guys went to in Cheshire? Yeah, all those kind of places.
Yeah.
What you can't find from when in their nuclear days, shall we say, is when they were locked down, when there was red alerts, and these places would have been locked down as if because they were concerned there was going to be a nuclear drop. I know that happened.
But yet you can find everything else out, like deaths, etc. Changes in ownership and usage and blah blah blah. So surely, even though there is still areas that are bound, it is mainly just the nuclear bit that is bound by the Secrets Act.
Well, you say that, but it's only recently they've been getting reports of people who actually did work in there once it was finished, because so many of them would have signed official Secrets Acts, and a lot of them who are still alive, they've only just been given permission to talk. I mean, when you look at people who say worked at Bletchley, they've only just been given permission to tell people what they did. There's actually still stuff from World War I that's not being released because it's a sensitive nature. So even though there is this kind of 50-year rule normally, if the MOD and the government think it is too provocative or too sensitive to release it, they won't release it.
Yeah,
they don't have to. Which is a bugger for historians.
Well, yeah, I can imagine. It's safe to say I'm not a historian, but I can imagine the difficulty that you do have.
Yeah.
I mean, Paul Rook in the chat room has come up with a very, very interesting point, and I think that we shouldn't overlook this. Could you just not be seeing him attacking female spirits in the spirit realm? So as opposed to it being human on human, could it not be spirit on spirit that you were seeing, Jo?
It's quite possibly, but I'm quite sure that we've explained this previously, haven't we? That people who have obviously done bad things in life, they've also done it in spirit as well, haven't they? They don't change just because they've become a spirit. But it's just, I just don't. I've wrote names down, so I'm going to have a look into that, and I'm going to try and see if I can find out any information about it, because if I can find these names and see if there's anybody who actually worked there at that time with these same names, then that'll be quite exciting.
Yeah. Have you got your list handy? I'm just going to put you right on the spot here, because obviously Pen's done the research on this, right? So she might actually know.
I think Gary actually posted something, if I'm honest, of some stuff. Let me just have a look.
I've not seen it. It's safe to say I've been a bit absent recently with social media and messages, etc. So I've missed so much in what's going on in the world. It's got to be said.
You don't text, you don't call,
you don't email. Yep. Penny did actually send me this message the other day. She did. She did. You don't call, you don't write. I was like, oh, I'm sorry.
I think you called me straight back and went, I stop loving you.
I did call you straight back and I did say, I am so sorry.
Yeah, I think sometimes though, work when you go to work and you start, doing things, the days just amalgamate into each other, don't they? So you haven't. I'm just trying to find if he's put any in there. Let me have a look. There was one person's name that stood out, and it was Janice. That's one name that stood out quite prominently there.
Okay, that's not one of the names of the people who were listed as having died there. The only female to die there was a Mary Ann.
Yeah, I don't think this is why I'm trying to work out whether she wouldn't have passed away there, but this Janice was a woman who was basically, I wrote it down because she was actually a person who I felt that he'd done that to.
So does it actually necessarily have to be Drakelow as in the site, or could it just be the area? Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean? Like, how many times do we say this, right? Everywhere's got the potential to be haunted. Completely agree with that, Completely agree with that statement. But does that mean that the spirit realm can't transmit from different areas, if you will?
Quite possibly, yeah, it could do. But if you've got something from if it's transmitting from another area inside Drakelow, would that how would that be possible? If you understand, I'm just trying to work that out. The land. Yeah. If the land that it lies on, and would people have had experiences there whilst that building was being built?
Exactly. Even previous to it being built, could something have taken place in? Because let's not forget. In total, oh God, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure in total, I think it works out between 5 and 7 miles that you have got of Drakelow. I know that you can only investigate a percentage of it because the rest of it is blocked off. It has been for a long time.
Yeah,
there's a lot more to it than what you actually get to see when you go in.
It's actually, they've opened up quite a lot of areas as well. They've started to knock through walls and things like that, because I remember MJ saying that, oh, this wasn't like this the last time I was here, and this wasn't like this, and you could actually go right into the back, and Carl knew his way around, and that was fantastic, because obviously then, Carl could say, right, you need to go right to this corner and go up there, but me, never been there before, it's like a rabbit warren, and I sat there and I was like D9, D8, I was like, where the hell am I? And we stayed in a group with 5 people, and there was 3 women and 2 guys, and it was like, right, where are we going? And literally I just said to him, just turn left, turn left, turn left, and you hopefully
to be fair, no, in all fairness though, I know my way. I'm pretty much like Carl with Drakelow. I can find my way around there without a torch, not an issue. I think that sort of comes the more time you come. It's like I'm actually there. I am not actually there, everybody.
It's a confidence thing as well. You get more confident that you will find your way back.
Yeah, of course you do. Yeah, and a lot of the time, if you do just keep turning left, you do find your way back to the entrance in Drakelow tunnels. I remember doing that on one of my very first ever investigations. It was like, well, if I just keep turning left, I'm bound to get somewhere, right? And there's going to be people, surely.
Paul's just made an interesting comment, though. He said the energy could be attached to something that's been brought into the tunnels, because nobody questions where the objects that, not all the objects that are in Drakelow are inherent to Drakelow. They've been brought in as an exhibit, shall we say. So we don't know where they've come from originally.
But again, that's a massive one with at least 98% of locations.
Exactly. And all I know is this nasty bloke who it's seen that he's abused women. I've experienced him. Other people have experienced him. I found out on my second visit he was known as the Reverend. I also went toe to
How
toe with him.
did you find that out, Pen?
It was actually sorry, I've just got something caught on my foot. It was actually a medium who was there, who's been there about 30 or 40 times. And he said that's what he'd been told to call him. That's what the spirit had told him to call him. And when I got on the board, I said, "Do you like to be known as the Reverend?" The answer was yes. And it was like, "But you're not a reverend, are you?" "No." And I said, "You just like to be known as is because you've got a jumped up attitude about yourself, haven't you?" And that's kind of when apparently he didn't really like me from then on, because I wasn't scared of him. I wouldn't allow myself to be scared of him. But this other woman, she was being very, very badly affected by it. So much so I told her to get off the board, because her colour just went from her. It was very strange. Very strange.
But you see, this is something that I found anyway. For anybody in the chat room, I'm so sorry. My chat room has frozen on Paul's comment about the spirits attacking spirits as opposed to human form. So I'm so sorry I can't actually see any of the comments. So that is over to you and Penny Jo.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No,
I can't see. It's frozen on me.
We're just obviously MJ's in the chat room, and obviously she's kind of saying it was weird because obviously the things that we'd experienced. Andy Babington's in the chat room as well, and he's saying, the guard in Tunnel 1 is a bit of a character, and he's never had anything untoward negative happen.
Right, so I'm just going to throw this one out there and discuss it amongst yourselves. But I said, as I've said earlier, I have been to Drakelow so many times I cannot count. It is one of my most regular visited locations. What I tend to find with that place is you will find individuals being drawn to certain areas, but those certain areas will be isolated. So you will end up being isolated from the group in there.
Yeah, that's what was happening. It was like, obviously I'd been told to go one way, and I had people who came with me. But we were in a big group, and then all of a sudden it was like trying to pick us off one by one. It was like trying to split us up, and that's what I found strange as well, because I've only ever had that happen once before, and that was at East Drive, where things had happened downstairs, and you'd go upstairs, and then you'd go upstairs and you'd hear things back downstairs, and it's like, well, we can't be in two places at once. But that's exactly that's what happens. And MJ did say, she said it like tries to pick you off, and I was like, yeah. But then obviously what I found weird is because we're saying that women have experienced, this negative person, this reverend, but then Eddie took a turn for the worst as well, he obviously works with Jane Harris on their events, and for him to actually say that after I'd been affected, he was nowhere near me, and he just said, I feel like I felt like I was going to pass out. And it was like, this is weird, it's so strange, but even though it's strange, I can't wait to go back.
It has that effect on you.
Yeah.
But I said this to you, Jo, years ago when we was chatting, and you said that you'd never been to Drakelow. I said, well, I nearly fell off my chair when you said you'd never been to Drakelow. And I said to you, that is one of the places that I always recommend people to go, because I know that I've not personally had a bad night there. Maybe using the word bad is the wrong terminology, because but I've never had a quieter night like some of the locations, where you can go and get absolutely nothing. I've never had that in Drakelow.
No.
So I've been telling you for years, Jo, that you have to at least experience it, because it is an experience that everybody should actually take. There's no other word. You should take that experience for exactly what it is.
It's a phenomenal place. It is an absolute. It is why it's on my top 5 as places, and not just the paranormal side there, but it's just the history of the place and what the changes it's seen, and the metamorphoses of uses, and I just I adore the place, I'm not. Actually, I know one thing about it I don't like.
I'm just going to throw this one out there, though.
There is one thing about it I don't like.
Go on.
how bloody cold it is.
Oh,
yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely freezing.
But the temperature in there never changes, does it? It can be 80 degrees outside and it'll still be minus 20 inside.
The 2 times I've been there, it's been like literally driving down there in shorts and a t-shirt and then putting 5 jumpers on, you know, and that's what I said in the book. One of these days I'm going to go there and I'm not going to have a shock to the system from going outside into inside. It's going to be like a similar temperature to what outside is. But I don't know. The first time I went there was actually with Paul Rookslock, Trident, and I just loved it from the minute I walked through the door. I just felt at home.
I totally get that. I love Drakelow, absolutely love it, right? But, we have to be transparent. Yes, we are paranormal investigators, but that doesn't mean to say that we can't look at the logic behind it either. And a lot of times, you know, especially on events where there's a number of people, a lot of the time you can get the hysteria effect. Something happens to one person, it's a domino effect. It just throws throughout the other. And could it not be with Drakelow because of the fact that you are underground? Sort of, in a fashion. You are underground.
You are good as, yeah.
Yeah. You was
there's
underground.
No natural light.
So... Get, right?
There's nothing like that. There's nowhere to, you know, there's nowhere for any drafts or winds or anything like that to come in.
Well, there is. There's the back doors.
Yeah.
There's the back doors. So there is drafts can get in there. They can, and there is some holes in the roof as well. So there is technically areas drafts could come in, but could it not be because of where it is? Because technically you are in the middle of nowhere. There's a few houses scattered around, but it's not like you're on a council estate where you've got a million neighbours to come and rescue you. If you're inside and that door, the main door, is shut, and you have not exactly got access to the back doors, do you know what I mean? You've got one way in, one way out. Could that not add to the fear? Could it not be a fear factor? And I'm not saying that it is. I am just simply saying that, you know, we have to be transparent and we have to look at it in every which way possible.
Yeah, I mean, when I went there, you know, as soon as I walked through the front door, I wasn't scared. You know, I was so excited to investigate it, and because obviously I know you've been before. I knew, you know, when I got Penny's book and it, you know, she's got chapter 4 Drakelow tunnels, and I deliberately didn't read that.
I'm impressed, Jo.
I know,
impressed. Can you name any of the other chapters?
I had to in the way.
So if we lost you,
I didn't actually read anything into it, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. But obviously now I can go back and read it because it's, you know, I've been away all weekend and, you know, coming back now and I can read it and I'm like, oh, I'm going to read that now, especially after you've said things. I'm like, oh, but apart from that, the book is fab. I've really enjoyed reading it.
Thank you.
And what was your question, Pen? Can we name any other chapters?
Yeah, can you name any of the other chapters, Jo?
Let's have a look. There is Highlands House as well in there.
There is Highlands House, yeah.
I love that place.
And the True Crimes Museum as well, because I love stuff like that. I love true crimes and things. So those two, Highlands House and the True Crimes, I really enjoyed reading those as well.
And Langard, Gresson
Hall.
Is it Gresson Hall?
Yeah, the workhouse.
Ragged Skull, that's in there.
The Ragged Skull is in there as well.
What chapters? How many chapters are we missing now, Pen? Because it's like we're having a quiz. So hit me with it.
Really, aren't you?
How many am I missing?
Rougham Airfield.
Oh, is it
Fort Horsted?
Fort Horsted, yeah. And there's another one. That's
Strangers
it.
Hall.
There you go. See, I could have passed that quiz. What's my prize? What do I win?
My undying affection.
Quizzes win prizes. I want a prize. So, Jo, Drakelow, would you go back?
Oh, definitely, hands down. I'm going back in August.
Are you?
I can't wait for that. I'm going to go back in August. So, just waiting for details to come up on that. So, but no, I'm quite happy as well to actually book on other teams' events to go there as well, and
that's exactly what I did. That was exactly what I did. I think I went on just about every single events company's event to Drakelow because I was addicted.
Yeah,
but it was the case of I wanted to see if it was, and well, as you know, I've even booked it as well and literally just gone with myself and one other person and spent 48 hours in there. But it does tend to pull you back.
It is, yeah.
And I was always like, is it because of the actual spirits in the location, or is it because of the location? Because your fear factor, I mean, the fear factor goes through the roof in that place. There's no way to avoid that. That is going to happen even to the most seasoned ghost hunter. It's going to happen. You are going to have that initial, oh, God, I'm stuck in here.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, obviously, that kind of interested me. As soon as I walked in, it was like the door, everything outside the front was very, it was nice. And like you were saying, it was red hot on Friday as well, driving down, and it was just unbelievable. And then when I walked in, I was like, oh my God, it's freezing. But that place is now, for me, is probably one of my top 3 places to investigate, definitely.
So what's the other 2?
I want to go to St Mary's Close in Scotland. I want to do that, and there
Mary
is
King's
another
Close. Mary
that's
King's
it, yeah. And then there's another one, Castle Menzies as well, that I'd like to do.
Menzies I like Menzies. I'm not sure I like it for the right reasons, but I like Menzies.
Where's that?
Yeah.
Where's that one?
Scotland.
Right at the top. Yeah, it's near the Isle of Skye in Scotland. It's like it takes ages to get to. So, but yeah, I think obviously having a break from doing our public events, Gemma, has kind of given us that stead to kind of go out and investigate more of these places with other paranormal investigators, and I've kind of got my mojo back a little bit, and I've really enjoyed it, and I've kind of sat there and actually thought, now, is it a way forward of just kind of bringing Phantasmic as a private investigation team rather than doing public events, but obviously us hosting one-off public events, I don't know, it's just
I
a
think
bit
more and more teams are doing that. They're doing it as sort of private, friends can come along who, because I know I've been on a few like that. It's individual groups that it's just their group, but they've got a spare place and they'll ask me if I want to come along and sort of share the cost. And I think there is more and more doing that. And whilst I enjoy the public events because I love seeing people's faces when something happens and they're absolutely blown away and you can see they've suddenly got the bug. I also like the ones when there is a select group of people who all know their job, who all know what to do, when to sort of get excited, when maybe to step back and go, nah, not everything's a ghost, sort of thing. So
that's Rule 101, surely.
You what? Sorry.
That's Rule 101, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah, but some groups don't sort of want to do that. Almost, they want to do it softly, whereas. But then you also get, I mean, when I did that experiment at the Kersal with Fright Nights Essex recently, and it blew most of us away. There were members of the public who were there who were like, why are we doing this? What's this supposed to prove? And they're like, did you not see the activity? Did you not see what was happening?
Yeah, but you see, this is it.
And that's where
like,
a lot of the public ones don't always know.
What are you hoping to get out of any investigation? Is it that you want to hear knocks and bangs, or is it actual evidence that you can then collect data on and information and move the paranormal field forward? It totally depends on what you want out of every investigation, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it sounds like Joe's now having a switch from, want of a better word, ghost hunts to paranormal investigations.
Yeah, and I do think...
Do you agree with that, Joe?
Yeah, because I mean, like when I started Phantasmic, it came out from obviously me going through a horrific personal experience, going through a divorce and kind of finding myself again, and then realised that there was a bit of a gap in the market for teams to use sophisticated equipment, because there weren't any, events companies out there doing that, using, the Ovilus 5s, your REM pods and things like that. They don't. It's just a K2 meter, a Ouija board, or, a glass divination, dowsing rods and, things like that. And I wanted my love of the paranormal to kind of come across in the public investigations. And, as much as I'm grateful to people who've come on investigations with us and have become lifelong friends, because we have made some amazing friends, haven't we? But I think now it's kind of I'm at that crossroads point now where I kind of think I actually enjoy being the investigator and not obviously being the event host. It's because don't get me wrong, people will always say, we've had quite a lot, haven't we, bad press when we went on Good Morning Britain saying we're not paranormal investigators, and it's like, hang on a minute, that's the reason why we were on there, because we are paranormal
blow your own
investigators.
trumpet time, do you know what I mean? And I can sit here quite comfortably and say I am an actual really good paranormal investigator, because I won't, and no way will I ever let anybody tell me otherwise. Like the bad comments that came off that, like, you're fat and ugly, you shouldn't be on TV, do you know what? Bore off.
Exactly.
You can't come at me and say that I'm a rubbish investigator, because I'm not. So if the best you've got is my appearance, jog on.
Can anyone say the word trolling?
Yeah.
Actually, Spooky Sister Pamela has made a good point in the chat room. Basically, around what we're talking about, she's saying it's evidence we want rather than scares, and I think that is the difference.
But it's how we collect that data. It's how we collect that evidence to move the paranormal field forward, isn't it? And that is the hardest bit at the minute, because like you've just said, Jo, there is all this technology and all this equipment that you can use, and you both know I do actually know the tech. I'm not just saying this and don't have a clue, but there's very, very limited actual evidence to state that equipment is doing what we believe it's doing.
Yeah.
Jo, have you gone?
No, I'm still here. I just I keep having technical difficulties because it keeps on breaking up. I didn't hardly hear anything that you said then about. All I heard was about tech and equipment, and it started going. I was like, oh God, where's she gone?
The equipment. How do we know it's? How do we know the equipment's doing what it's purported to be doing?
Yeah.
So, and that is a good point. And
it is. And I don't think that, don't get me wrong, I love a bit of tech. Do you know what I mean? I absolutely love it. But in order to move the paranormal field forward from, who did you say it was? Pamela, that had put it in the chat room about it being scares. In order to move the paranormal field on from that scare sensationalism, how do we prove it?
But I think what she's saying is the difference between the people who want to go on the public events. They may be just in it. They want. It was almost like you could put them in a haunted, not a haunted house as in a genuinely haunted house, but like the haunted house type things you get at Halloween. That's what they're after. They want to be scared. Whereas once you start doing it a bit more, you start to be more interested in. Can I explain what just happened? If I can't explain what just happened, what are the theories as to? Do you get what I mean? So it's looking into it in a more. It's a different, right, the only analogy I can think of is, when you're on holiday, you don't want to be reading a book that's really in-depth and that you have to concentrate on. You want beach books. Do you get what I mean? Whereas when you're learning something, you want something that's going to make you think. That's possibly the difference. You get some people who will never read anything bar what I call beach books. They don't want anything that makes them think. They don't want anything that makes them question. They don't want anything that... like, for example, the book Birdsong. And I know we're going off topic here a bit. But the book Birdsong, when I read that, I learnt things in that I never knew about World War One. I went off and read up on some of the stuff I'd read in there. It made me think. Whereas I could read a book by, say... I can't even think of an author now off the top of my head. But some of the books I've read, it's just once it's read, it's done. There's nothing in it that makes you go, oh, I wonder if how that actually happened in real life. And I wonder if that's actually possible. Patricia Cornwell books, for example. I love them.
I love Patricia Cornwell. She's amazing, isn't she?
She is, but she doesn't make me want to go off and research some of the things she said. Does that make sense? Whereas Birdsong, because it talked about the tunnelers and everything else in World War I, which I didn't know anything about at the time, I went off and started reading up on it. So that's kind of the difference, I would say, between a lot of public events compared to a more concentrated event with people of a like mind. That even though you'll all have different strengths, you'll all have different experiences, you'll all have different experience, you're all bringing something to it to learn more. You may not find the answer immediately, but you're not just there to go, and run away. Does that make sense? I'm not explaining myself very well, sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm with you. I'm with you, don't worry, it's fine.
But that's kind of what I think the difference is. So you've got the people who go on these events because they literally do just want to be freaked out and sort of go grey, so to speak. But then you get the other people. I mean, the reason I go on some of these public events is A, I'm friends with some of the crew, and B, it's a chance to get into a building that otherwise there's no way on earth I could afford to get into at night and wander around on my own. And it's more of the experience. It's not a proper investigation.
But even on a proper investigation, if we're all totally honest and totally realistic, it's still a personal journey, because it is a personal journey that we're all embarking on in this wonderful, magical world that we call the paranormal. Yeah. Every day is a school day.
Yeah, it should be.
There's always something else to learn.
Yeah, it should be. I'm saying it should be, because I don't think not everyone sees it that way, but it should be. We can all learn from each other, no matter who you are. Whether you've been investigating 5 years or 25 years, you've still got something.
All it takes is somebody with a different perspective just to say, no, hang on a minute, what if we substitute that, swap that with that?
Yeah. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. It doesn't matter how many investigations you've done. Everyone has got the ability to question
sometimes
things.
A fresh pair of eyes is exactly what you need at that time, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like when you're looking for your house keys. Do you know what I mean? You can look for 12 hours, not find them. Somebody will come along and be like, they're there.
Yeah. I agree.
It's just the way it goes, isn't it? Ladies, we're out of time.
I know, that's mad, that. I can't believe how quick that hour's gone.
Time flies when you're having fun, girls.
Just looked at the clock in the corner of my screen and I was like, oh my God, look at the time.
I have been keeping an eye on it.
Oh, at least one of us is. I was just quite happy waffling, in all fairness. Well, ladies, it's been an absolute honour to chat to you both.
No, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Jo, I am so pleased you've finally been to Drakelow Tunnels, because now all those stories that I've told you about that place, you can now understand where I was coming from.
Yeah, and do you know what? It's just, it's like you were saying, I'm like, right, okay, I'm going to do this, but I've managed to talk Mark into doing an investigation as well. Ooh. So I know. So
before we go, where are you taking him?
To East Drive. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that as well, but there's I've got some friends coming down from Scotland, so I just said, can I bob over and see you? And Mark was like, can I come? I was like, yeah, of course you can. So yeah, popping his little ghost busting cherry tomorrow.
Well, do you know why I'm glad you?
Yeah.
Oh blimey! Do you know why I'm glad you've finally been to Drakelow, Jo?
Why?
Because you can read the chapter of the book.
Do you know what? I'm actually for whoever listens to this show knows, majority of time we do this show from our bedrooms and what have you. And I'm laid in bed now, and I've actually circled. I'm like sat here looking. I'm right. I'm going to read up now. I'm definitely going to read chapter 4 now. So if you get some inboxes from me, Penny, then I'll be like, oh my god, that's happened. Yeah, that's happened. Oh no. But no, it's there's another investigation on I think it's the 30th of August that I've obviously said that I'd go to, so it'll be interesting to kind of go back and see whether there's anything any different than what I experienced the first time, because it's like we say, don't we, throughout all of the investigations, you've got to go back to certain places a number of times.
You can't judge a location on just one visit. You can't. It's impossible. You need to, and it's the same with experiments. If you're going to use them to try and collate evidence from, then it needs to be in depth. It needs to be more than once. It needs to be more than twice. It needs to be lots and lots and lots of times,
this is
right?
a whole hour's worth of conversation, because I was talking to Mr. Ashley Nib about this very subject last night. So
was you?
we might have to say goodbye to everyone, because otherwise it's going to be a very late show.
Oh, well, there you go then. Yeah, but it's true. It is true, you know. But the more times you go, Joe, it'll be interesting to see the experiences that come from it. So I, for one, will look forward to that.
Okie dokie.
I thought we'd lost you again.
No, it's just, it keeps on going funny all the time, and I'm like, what the hell? Why does it keep doing that? I was like, oh my God. And then, just as usual, the eldest just comes in saying, can I have some football boots? So,
and of course, because you're live on the radio, you have no other choice than to just nod your head and like, yes, love, that's fine.
Yeah, no,
right?
I'm not doing that. So it's, it can wait now 2 minutes.
Yeah, mine keep doing that all the time. They know that between the hours of 9 and 10 on a Monday night, they can get anything they want, because they'll come in, they'll be giving me all this sign language, and I'll just be like, yeah, nodding my head, thumbs up, that's fine.
You see, you're a lot nicer than me. I do the slitting throat sign when they try and do that to me when I'm on air.
Yeah, I have just literally sat here now and just looked at him, and he's like, why not? Like, arms out.
And now we sat there. Now we stood there, and
I've got you some Maltesers and a card for Mother's Day. Like, I'll have this. I'll have that money back now, shall I, Mum?
And now he's like, "Why are you discussing me while you're live on the radio? Thanks for that."
Yeah. He's now sitting here going, I just need £9, £9, and I'm like, oh my god, honestly. He don't realise that he had 60 quid boots off me when he mysteriously forgot them the last time he went to a game. And I'm like, you're a football player and you forget your boots. How are you expecting to play football?
Because it's a not sure way that Mum's just going to go buy you some straight away, isn't it? Credit to the lad. At least he's using his noggin, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And on that note, ladies, we're going are at the end. Yeah. So if you do happen to miss any of the Parasearch shows, guys, head on over to YouTube. You can catch them all there. There is an archive section as well for past shows. In fact, I think there's every single show gone out on the archive section. So pop over, have a listen. There is some great, interesting shows that do go out on a very, very regular basis. And don't forget Spreaker. Spreaker is a good place to go. You can, as Penny said earlier when she did the weekly roundup, you can download them and listen to the shows on your travel. So don't be shy, peeps. Get downloading and get listening to the shows. And from me, it's a good night, ladies.
Good night.
Night, everyone.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.